We'll talk about it
Okay.
in the second segment.
Remind me because I'll forget.
Okay, well, I will probably forget also, but we'll try to remember. Welcome back. This is Don't Watch at Night, a spooky little podcast dedicated to Latin American and Spanish language horror. I'm your host, Valerie.
And I'm Veronica.
And Veronica, while you're writing down your reminder, I want to tell you, I came across something, and I don't have my phone, something that happens. It's coming up in San Antonio called, is it Cursed Con? Is that what it is?
Never heard of it.
Cursed City Con of San Antonio, happening next month, as a matter of fact. What it is just like another convention for horror enthusiasts. Premier destination for horror enthusiasts, where our mission is to provide thrills, chills, and wickedly good time. Celebrating all things horror, from classics to contemporary scares. We have something for everybody. Special celebrity guests, films, authors, artists, vendors, things of that nature. So I only just learned about Cursed City Con recently. It's only like maybe 2 years old at most. But this year they're going to be having R.L. Stine at the con, which is so cool. Like I was telling Alex, like I grew up with R.L. Stine.
Yeah.
So
Goosebumps?
anyway,
Is that what he writes?
Goosebumps and Fear Street. Those were R.L. Stine books. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that with listeners. That's happening next month. If you're in San Antonio, go to Cursed City Con. But Veronica has been like,
busy,
I don't even know, entrenched. How are you doing?
Yeah, so the dance fitness studio that I'm going to be teaching at, did our soft opening 2 weeks ago. So we've been having classes, and there's been a lot of prep work for that and practicing, and grand opening isn't until actually September 6th. Hopefully we're in a rhythm now and I can get into like a regular schedule in my personal life, because it's been a lot of prep work. And like I was at the studio pretty much, I taught yesterday morning at 9:30, stayed for the 10:30 class, and then we had a 3:30 like staff meeting. But because it's way on the other side of town, I didn't want to drive all the way home, shower, maybe rest for an hour and go all the way back. So I just went to the Y over there, showered, changed, and then killed like an hour and a half at the bookstore at the Barnes & Noble over there, and then went to the meeting. So I was pretty much over there all day yesterday.
Does it feel good to be in a dance studio in this capacity? Or I mean, is it
and I just want to clarify,
something in your
it's
soul?
not like classical dance. So it's not like ballet or tap or any of those classical formal dance. I mean, this is like more like a hip hoppy vibe, cardio fitness basically, to music. You should come, Valerie.
But Veronica, because I don't have the knees for that. Like Veronica keeps trying to convince me. She's like, you can do it. You can do it.
You have younger knees than I do. Your knees are 13 years younger than my knees.
Yes, but I put my knees through more than you have. So I don't know if I could do it. But I mean, Veronica does herself a disservice. Veronica does have that. She has a classical background to her, as do I. Like we did dance as children.
That was many decades ago.
Decades. But it's there. It's the foundation that everything else is rooted in. Okay, well, I don't really have too much to share from my life. I do start.
You do. Did you start your preschool?
I do. Well, no.
Teaching?
My first day will be Tuesday. In the preschool classroom.
Are you nervous? Well,
I'm
did it
very
before.
nervous. I'm very nervous. No,
Why? You did it before.
I've done it before. I've never done it as a lead teacher. So I've never had to like prep the lesson and be responsible for executing it. So I'm very nervous, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be great. I just have to keep them alive and keep them having fun. And that's all I have to do. And I can do that. So,
how long do you have them for?
I mean, it's so part-time. It's a part-time half-day pre-K. We'll release by 1. I'll get done in time to go pick up my children, just in time to go pick up my children. So
that's cool though.
I'm still nervous, but it'll be fine. Like 30 minutes in, I'll be like, okay, I remember how to do this. I'm going to be fine. So anyway, before we get to it, I do want to have a discussion about body horror as it relates to the movie that we watched this week, because I think, Veronica, correct me if I'm wrong, you and I have both said on this show before our feelings about body horror, right?
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
Okay. So I have reasons too that it's sort of like iffy for me as well. But you articulate now, if you haven't, like, reiterate for the listeners, what is it about body horror that just sort of is unsettling for you? It's disturbing for many. You're not alone.
Yeah, I don't know that I can articulate it. It's just icky.
Are there
It
films
is.
that
It's disturbing.
yes, are there films that stand out to you when you think about body horror?
Well, no, because I avoid them, so I don't watch them.
You're
I'm
like,
trying to
I
think of
avoid them to all
I'm
ends.
trying to think of one that I have watched.
Well, let me see if this jogs some of your memories. So
Go for
there are some links, guys, that we're going to include in show notes for you. And so one of them that I looked at from slowburnhorror.com was really fascinating because it brought up all of these movies that I wouldn't have necessarily associated with body horror. It says body horror is wide ranging and it also gets a lengthy history. Movies like Alien would fall under the scope of body horror to some.
So the alien bursts out of the chest. That's really
yeah,
all I can think of.
yeah, the Hellraiser films.
See, never saw those.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw this one. I didn't, but the movie Tusk. Okay,
Tusk?
who is it? Justin Long. Is it Justin Long? Is that his name?
Long?
Justin Long?
I do
think
like
that's his
Justin
name.
Long.
You don't like him?
I do.
As many do. And he's in more than one. He's in Jeepers Creepers, but he's in Tusk. And
dude, I watched Jeepers Creepers like back when we lived in the first house that we ever bought, and it was when Robert was working nights and the kids were, they were little, and so I was watching it late at night. See, that's a one you should not watch at night by yourself.
I've never watched it because I'm a wimp, but I am fascinated by it. The Fly is considered body horror.
I can see that.
And then the article also points out, and this is a fair argument to be made, the argument that Frankenstein is considered body horror. For obvious reasons, I would think. But yeah. And then
it's very fitting considering this movie that we just watched too.
Yes. Yes, this is true. So, okay. The article also points out the film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Body horror-esque, because if you think about it, Ron, okay.
Because they blow up the blueberry chick.
The piece highlights the fact that the use of body horror is there as punishment for naughty children that don't follow the factory rules. The post says, the affected children's bodies, and now I never read the book. I don't know if you read the book. The affected children's bodies undergo irreversible transformation, serving as visual reminders of their transgressions. So Augustus Gloop, for instance, is squished. Violet Beauregard is bloated. Mike TV's body is shrunk and stretched. I mean, I'm when I think about like what it is that makes me uncomfortable about body horror is just this things happening to your body or from your body that you can't control. What are you doing?
I'm writing.
Notes you're to writing. Myself. Okay, I was like, you seem distracted.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Things that are done to your body.
Right, that you don't have control over, right. or things that are coming from your body that you don't have control over. Like Alien. I guess Alien, something bursting out of your body. And by that notion, isn't the Thing, wouldn't we consider the Thing to be body horror then?
If that's, the
if definition
they're considering Alien. But see, those are movies that I have watched and I enjoyed and I didn't.
But the thing is, like, there's something coming of the body, right?
Maybe I have to fine tune my definition of body horror.
Well, so how are you defining it in your mind? What is it to you?
Like this movie that we watched.
Well, I'm trying to like get a baseline of what you consider horror, but body horror, but like you don't have other films to. Yeah, I guess I don't either. Frankenstein,
like aliens, and The Thing
would be more sci-fi for you.
Yeah, that's more in the sci-fi realm. I don't even really consider them horror-y. I think of them more as, I guess maybe like a sci-fi horror, but yeah. I don't really lump that in the same category in my mind.
Well, and so like it's worth going for folks listening. It's worth going and looking at this piece because that's one of the things he talks about is just like how broad and wide-ranging the body horror genre is. And so it's really difficult to sort of isolate what is body horror. Stories where the plot is directly tied to body horror versus stories where the plot is just sort of like it's in the background, it's part of the story, but it's not the whole story. Let's see. I did want to mention this quote. Shannon Lewis is the writer. This person says, body horror's ubiquitousness makes sense. After all, having a body is a fairly universal experience, even if the experience of a body is unique to every individual. They say body horror understands that sometimes there is inherent horror to possessing a body. The body serves as an expression of you, but sometimes it does things outside of your control. mortifying things. For instance, you fart in front of your one-night stand. You throw up in the taxi on the way home. So things like that, like sometimes your body just sort of betrays you, Anytime that you've seen body horror in films, Ron, like, are there particular scenes from particular movies that have stuck with you and turned you off? For the podcast, I would
Like
say
when
that
I was young, and I think I've said this before on the podcast. If not, I'm pretty sure I've told you. Like the film that
that's
scarred
right.
me as a kid.
You did say it on the
The
podcast.
Brood. And I will never forget that scene where I don't know if he was a policeman or a doctor or whatever, walks in and the woman, like, she's sitting on this futon or whatever chair on the floor, and she has this big voluminous robe, and she opens it up and there's like this deformed
So you were scarred from an early age.
Growing outside her body.
You were scarred from an early age on body horror. And I was scarred from an early age on dead people coming back to life. So look at how it's fueled our adult worlds. But the only time that you and I have, the movie that stands out to me that you and I covered on this show that to me is like body horror-esque would be Huesera. When we watch Huesera. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, does cannibalism count? Like when we watch The Platform? Is that?
I don't think so. I think more body horror is like there's some sort of contortion or metamorphosis or transformation or something
internal.
Yeah, that's happening with the body that's not natural. Not consented to.
Right. And then that's a good way to put it. Like it's not necessarily that it's not natural, but it's being forced.
Yeah, it's not wanted.
Right. And I think that's sort of like what I was seeing in a lot of the resources that we looked at, that it's like body horror. It's sort of like it's this I guess question of internal threat versus external threat. And with body horror, you're dealing with something that I guess you could conceive of as an internal threat. It's coming from within, and it's often something that you have no control over. I do want to close with this. The director for Raw, which is a movie I haven't seen, I believe it centers around cannibalism. So I don't know that you and I would see it, but it's Julia Ducournau. She's the director for Raw, and she said in an interview with The Guardian, "I was aware that my body could mutate in unexpected ways and have autonomy. Are you your body, or is your body you? This is the kind of thing I always thought about. What does it mean in terms of identity?" Okay, everybody, we watched The Skin I Live In. In Espanol, it's La Piel que Habito. It's a Spanish film. It was filmed in parts of Spain, directed by Pedro Almodóvar, and it stars Antonio Banderas, Elena, Anaya, Marisa Paredes, Han Cornet, if I'm saying that right, and Roberto Alamo. It came out in 2011, so this film is 14 years old now. And it's based on a novel called Tarantula by French author, I'm going to say this the best that I can, Thierry Jonque. It was a little bit longer on the runtime. This was like almost 2 hours long.
I know. When I turned it on and I saw 2 hours, I was like, why?
Because it's a Pedro Almodóvar film.
I was like, why? So I actually split it up. I watched the first hour Friday night and then the second hour last night.
Yeah, the second hour took a different turn from where I thought it was going. I guess we'll talk about it. Yeah, so a little bit longer on the runtime. I don't know if you want me to read a little bit about it, a little blurb about it. Let's see. A brilliant plastic surgeon haunted by past tragedies creates a type of synthetic skin that withstands any kind of damage. His guinea pig, a mysterious and volatile woman who holds the key to his obsession. And that's the end of that description. It's okay. IMDb is somewhat lacking in its information on films. So that's the film we watched. It's universally known. I think it pops up on many lists. So I don't think anyone's a stranger to this movie. But Ron, you've watched this over the course of 2 days. I watched this all yesterday. What are your first thoughts on this, on your first watch of this film?
I mean, the first half I was like, where is this going? And then the second half,
it's a slow burn.
And then the second half, the second hour, more or less, give or take, I was uncomfortable. I was deeply disturbed. I was
with the revelations.
Repulsed. I was not happy to be watching it.
Let me start off with a plus. This is not related to anything. I understand the man is unhinged, but Antonio Banderas looking very dapper in this film, looking very peak of his time. I'm trying to think, what else was he doing at this time? He'd already done some stuff.
Yeah, but
And
Almodóvar kind of launched his career.
yeah,
More or
like
less.
he
In
had
fact, I
done
saw
some,
that movie. I want to say I've seen 2 Almodóvar films. I know I saw Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, although I don't remember anything about it.
right.
And I thought there was another one, but none of these titles look familiar to me, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, like by the time he comes back to Almodóvar in this film, it's like what, 20 years later or something like that. Here in 2011, I think he'd already kind of broken out in like stateside and done some really cool thing, like done some big movies stateside. Because one of the things that we talked about, or that we come up in the resources we linked for you guys, is that this performance in this film is so understated compared to some of the Hollywood blockbusters that he'd produced at this point. Things like, if I'm not mistaken, Assassins had come out. Yeah, 1995 with Sylvester Stallone. He's very, like Assassins, I remember seeing that one in theaters. That was back when you could take small children to see rated R films in theaters. And he's very flashy and Rico Suave in that movie. So, this is a very understated performance here in this movie. But yeah, I agree with you. Very disturbing, especially as we get to the second part of the film. The first part of the film, I really thought that I had an understanding of what it was and where it was going, which was already kind of disturbing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be curious to hear what your predictions were when you stopped, because right around the 1 hour stopping point, I clocked it because I wanted to sort of understand, okay, where did Veronica leave it for
Leave
the
out.
night? And so where it left, I was just like, okay, I feel like I have an understanding of what this movie is, and that's disturbing enough. And then you cross over into revelation time in the second half, and you're like, oh no, it's even worse.
Yeah. Well, because I thought, because I don't watch trailers, don't know anything about the movie, so no clue what this was about.
Well, and the trailer didn't give away much. Yeah.
Well, and initially I just thought, okay, well, he's saved his wife, keeping her alive, and
right. Which felt very Eyes Without a Face.
Trying to repair her burned skin by doing his transgenesis or whatever he called it. So that's where I thought it was going.
And the transgenesis, if you can explain for folks, like what was his grand scientific discovery that he
wants to do something using, like, I didn't really understand all the science. I don't even know if transgenesis is an actual word or not, but he wants to use pig skin to develop a tougher skin that's like even impervious to being burned, so that no one else has to suffer burns. And he's lying to the scientific community, saying he's just
experimenting
doing his experiments on mice when he's really has this lovely young woman locked in a room wearing a full body suit. And we're led to believe that this is his wife who, was in some sort of disfiguring car accident and almost died and suffered severe burns.
So in that way, it does, like the early half of the film does really kind of, it feels like a reimagining of Eyes Without a Face, 1960s Eyes Without a Face, where it's like in that movie, the daughter has some sort of accident. She's believed to be dead. She's in fact not dead. She's just horribly disfigured. And her father is working night and day trying to come up with a way to give her new skin in order to improve her quality of life. In this film, we are led to believe it's his wife that is believed to be dead in a fire, but is actually alive. And he's trying to essentially graft new skin onto her and bring her back, so to speak. Little details. One of the things that I noted, I just realized that I don't have my phone on me, which is where I had all my details noted, but I loved his house. I thought his house was beautiful. His McMansion with the amazing art, which I think is pretty prevalent in Almodóvar films.
I thought it was pretty evident that the young woman that we at this point believe is his wife that he's doing these experiments on, she's not happy. She's not happy about being there. And I don't know if that was an attempted suicide, that although the marks where she cut herself were
not very deep.
And were oddly placed. I mean, I think there was some here on her chest. But she's clearly not necessarily 100% on board with what's going on.
And maybe has grown, like the way I interpreted it is like maybe she's grown resentful of being like trapped and confined in this little chamber for God knows how long. You do sort of pick up on the fact that this is a wife-husband combo, and maybe the marriage has soured somewhat over the passage of all this time. And then we meet Norma before the end of the first half of the film.
I don't remember exactly what had happened
Well, rather than going
when
like
I
bit
turned
by
it on.
bit,
Yeah.
like what were some of the things that bothered you about the film or things that you enjoyed about the film?
Nothing. I
You
mean,
said
other than the look of it, but like story wise, I mean, I thought the acting was solid.
it's a difficult story. It's
Yeah. I mean,
sad. It's sad.
yeah, it's tragic and repulsive. And I had an issue with like the flashback
Okay.
because to me it was oddly placed. It almost felt to me like, how did I write it?
Because the flashback doesn't come till like an hour in, right?
Yeah, and that's really the first time we even find out, or not necessarily in the flashback, but what was her name? The maid, the live-in housekeeper, Maritza,
Mari,
Marilia,
something
something
like
like
that.
that. It's like well into this movie where we even find out that there's a daughter, that she even exists. We have like no clue whatsoever. So it almost felt to me like this flashback, the daughter just suddenly gets injected into this story, almost as if the writer starting off going in one direction with the story and then decided, you know what, I'm going to go in this other direction, but didn't want to go back and like revise anything earlier to make it a more seamless transition. Instead of all of a sudden it's just like, oh, there's a daughter. There's suddenly this hard pivot in the story. So it just kind of felt like an afterthought.
I mean,
It was like, what daughter? Like, who the hell's Norma? She even mentions Norma. Like, who the hell's Norma?
like if I look at it in comparison to like a film like Gone Girl, which is based off of another book, and in the film Gone Girl, you do have that like I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it to determine where the narrative shift happens.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I believe the narrative shift happens a good halfway chunk through the book. So
there's
the film,
ways that you can do plot
there's ways
twists.
that you can do it, and in that
plot
film, I
where
think
it feels more like,
it feels
oh,
effectively done. And in this movie, I don't necessarily think that it wasn't effectively done, but it just
like where the hell did that come from?
I mean, there's an argument to be made that maybe it was very well done because it's just like we didn't see it coming. I didn't see that coming. I was just like, holy crap! Because fully, Veronica, I thought where we were going, and I was so disturbed by this. I thought where we were going was the burn victim was in fact his daughter. Maybe the understanding was that she jumped out of a window, right? As far as we were told, but it's like I was thinking, is this his daughter? And is this his daughter that he has reconfigured to look exactly like his wife and is now finding himself attracted to? And so I was just all kinds of disturbed. I was just like, what is this movie? Did you think that?
No.
Okay.
I had gotten the impression from what... Oh, it was after Antonio Banderas' character, Dr. Whatever his name is, shot Zeka and I guess had gone off to dispose of the body. And so Vera and the housekeeper are sitting outside the bonfire where I guess they're burning sheets or bloodied sheets, whatever. And she's more or less telling her about what happened to the ex-wife. And then she mentioned something about how poor Vera, she followed her mom, or she went looking for her mom down that same highway,
road.
out the window. So I got the impression, of course, I guess she could have been lying, but my impression was that the daughter's dead.
Yeah.
So I never, thankfully, had that thought for a minute that was the daughter.
Yeah. Because all she said was like, there was more to that sentence. She said, followed her mother down that same road through the window. And so I understood, okay, she launched herself out a window. But I guess I was just thinking, okay, if she survived the fall, if he was somehow giving her reconstructive surgery, I don't know. That's where I was going with it, just because there was so much focus on Norma in that end of the first half. Norma doesn't factor into the second half at all because Norma dies. But yeah, that's just where I was going with it. I guess primarily because like what is so prevalent through this film, and we can talk because I noticed you used the word repulse twice now, so I want to definitely get to that. But like, I guess one of the things that I found uncomfortable about this film was how much objectification there is of the female of women in this movie, but also more specifically the female form in this movie, which we see more of that come into play in the second half. But it's just sort of like the objectification of Norma, the way that she's just this pretty young thing for, in that moment, Vicente to take advantage of. And in the film where Zeka attacks Vera on the floor, just sort of your body is mine for the taking. Those things were uncomfortable to watch.
Did you see it as objectification, like Vicente meeting Vera at the party? Well, I saw it as a mutual attraction, and
sure, but
then she freaked out when she heard the song that her mother used to sing to her.
think
That's
from
where
the
things went south.
I think from the jump on the walk, before any of that even happened, it was very obvious that she was an innocent, naive girl, not aware of what she was walking into, versus this was a guy who believed, wrongly, she understood what she was walking into, that this was like, you're coming on this walk with me because this is where all the young kids go to hook up. And if you're coming with me, it's because you want to hook up also. So he had clear understanding of what he thought the moment was. And she had no idea.
Well, I think you had to,
He
because
made the presumption that he could have her because she joined him. She made no
mentioned that,
such promise to him. She didn't understand what she was even signing on for.
of course, there's no way for him to know her mental health background. And he also mentioned that he was high on whatever drugs they were taking. So you had two people who had questionable ability to fully understand the situation for different reasons. Her for her mental health, and his because he's under the influence of something.
And so he has
a bad mix.
It's just bad. It's just so bad.
A bad mix.
Just stay at the party, children.
There's some wild goings on in that garden. That's all I have to say.
And that is why we stay at the party.
This is a wedding. This is what happens.
Beautiful, beautiful wedding, though. Beautiful grounds. But what else? Like, what were your givings? What was your reading on the character Robert, Antonio Banderas' character? What were your readings on him at the beginning of the movie versus towards the latter half of the movie?
I never liked him. I never felt any sympathy for him because, as I said before, it was very clear to me that Vera, who I thought at that point was his former wife, Gal, is that her name?
Gal.
That she didn't want this. She didn't want whatever he was doing. She wanted it to stop, and he wouldn't. And so I just pretty much from the beginning was like, no, I don't like you, dude. I don't like you at all. And then it just got worse.
Yes.
So much worse.
A lot worse. It just sort of from the jump. And I think that maybe it's hard to know. Veronica's and my perceptions are certainly colored by the fact that we did just recently see Eyes Without a Face. And so coming into this movie, it is so strongly reminiscent of that. There's no escaping it. You do sort of just already go in thinking of Robert as just this controlling, micromanaging, brilliant, quote unquote, scientist figure.
And so I don't know if you say it, would you say the means don't justify the ends? Or is it the ends don't justify the means? One of those.
That makes sense to me.
So like him doing all this without the consent of the person, whether it did actually end up being his ex-wife or his daughter or the person that it actually ended up being. I mean, the means don't justify what he wanted to accomplish.
Right.
Like he was just so focused on doing that.
It's like
I don't even know if at the end it was even about that anymore. I think he lost sight of what his actual goal was.
If you haven't seen this movie, we're spoiling it. So stop and maybe watch it. But so what happens in this film with Norma, his daughter, and Vicente, the boy who was under the influence of drugs, is they wander off into the garden. Vicente believes, this is going to be a hookup because why else would we be coming out here? And she's an innocent. She's an innocent who also witnessed trauma at a very early age where she saw her mother purposely jump to her death out of a window right there in front of her on the garden grounds. She's a troubled young girl who I gather lives in an institution and was just out with her father for the evening at this wedding. In the walk in this garden, Vicente and her start making out. At a certain point, Norma recognizes she doesn't want to do this. She starts screaming and panicking. He knocks her unconscious. To be fair, he does stop what he's doing. He leaves her there, takes off.
Well, and also I don't think it was what they were doing that freaked her out. She heard the song playing that was the song that her mother used to sing.
She panicked and started fighting and screaming with him, and he panicked and slapped her and knocked her unconscious, and then
took off.
Recognized that, oh my God, what have I done? And stepped back and took off. And so at that moment, do we see Antonio Banderas in that moment, or do we see him later in flashback?
Well, this is when they're both dreaming.
Yes. Okay.
It's like this is their dreaming, I guess, or this is where we're getting this flashback.
So it is just important to note that Antonio Banderas does see him take off. Yeah. And we're just going to leave it at that. We'll pick it back up in the second half of the film. I forget, why did I launch into this? Why was I telling this? Why was I telling
I think you were going there, like you were going into why he's doing this.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, we're going there.
To this particular person.
So Antonio Banderas sees the biker bike off, and he's
The
out there in the
biker bike off.
garden. The biker bike off. The biker jet off.
Vicente on the bicycle take off.
And so he's out wandering in the garden. He sees the teenagers going at it. He sees slippers, dress shoes in the road, and recognizes them as his daughter, Norma's. Wanders up a few paces and finds Norma passed out up against a tree. Obviously, collects her and puts two and two together that motorbiker must have been the assailant. It sets him on a path of vengeance. And so I guess this is where the question that I was going to early on. Did you feel his motivations were driven by science, or do you feel like they were driven solely by revenge, or a combination of both? Because like something you said just a minute ago made me think of that stupid Jeff Goldblum quote from Jurassic Park. Like, the scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Right. And so it's just sort of like he gets so preoccupied with whether or not he can achieve this, he loses sight of like, is this morally correct?
Well, see, and it's hard to tell whether his initial aim when he tracks down Vicente and kidnaps him basically and chains him up in his cellar,
like, did he
basement,
have a
whatever.
plan at that point?
Well, see, that's why I said I don't know if at that point it was just, I don't know if his plan was to do what he did, or if it was just, I'm going to hold you captive here, and I don't know.
Yeah. See, I feel like he had no plan. He was just like
I think
an angry father.
Yeah, it seemed like it evolved into this very bizarre, weird thing that he ended up doing. I think initially it was just, I'm going to kidnap you and I'm going to make you pay
for what you did.
What you did, but not necessarily in the way that it ended up happening.
Right. Yeah. Like it just
very bizarre.
It morphed into something that went so far beyond vengeance and just sort of. So when you talk about like being repulsed, I think I know what you're getting at. What Robert takes Vicente, what he makes him undergo is it's a vaginoplasty. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm. Gender reassignment, basically.
Yeah, gender reassignment. What also is known as gender affirming care, if it's given with consent.
Yeah, if the person wants it.
Right. And there is the absence of that completely in this. And so that is what felt so horrifying. Was just like
I don't even think there's a word to encompass what that was.
It's just it's
like it's beyond anything.
Which sort of like by the time I got to the end of the movie,
like, what the hell is wrong with you, Almodóvar?
By the time I got to the end of the movie, The Skin I Live In as a title felt so much heavier than what I thought it was going to be going into it, because it's just like, if you can imagine what it must feel like to feel trapped in skin in a body that you don't feel yourself in, that is not you. It's just really.
And whereas for some people that are born feeling internally not the gender that they appear on the outside, these surgeries, which they consent to and want, are
positive.
You know, it's freedom. It's allowing them to be who they truly are. Whereas in Vicente's case, he's now been forced into this prison of, actually not even his skin really, but he's just been forced into the prison in this body that he doesn't want, never wanted.
Yeah.
And how do you live?
Right. And it's very interesting because it really does shift halfway through the movie I guess your feelings towards Vicente, Vera as a character. Vera as who we thought she was at the first half of the movie was an entirely sympathetic character for different reasons. Robert was always sort of like this cold, calculating, controlling figure, but one that I could at least understand this was a man who had been through a lot of pain. His wife had died in a fire. Kind of on her way to leaving him, she was having an affair with his brother, which we didn't know. He didn't know was his brother. He was a disgusting human.
Why? Like, I have questions, gal. Like, what in the hell were you even attracted to? This man was
Why are
disgusting.
You walking out of this beautiful mansion with all of this crazy, beautiful art to go be with?
Even if you want to have your side piece, there's better choices than Zeka. He was just disgusting.
So, yeah. So like, you have some degree of sympathy for Robert with losing his wife, then losing his daughter, being cognizant of the fact that he knows who his daughter's assailant was. And I will even say this. I will even be so bold as to say this. Even though Vicente didn't necessarily fully assault her, you could argue some innocence there there was a certain part of me just based off of like how I navigate the world as a woman and be cognizant of my surroundings. There is a particular scene that stood out to me at the end where Vera is leaving the house after all of this is over. She's leaving the house. She's walking out through the garden as a woman. And I was just sort of cognizant of the fact that like Vicente doesn't know what it is to walk down a dirt road at night as a woman. He's learning it now in that moment, but he's never known what that's like to walk down at night as a woman, fragile, and what that feels like. Finishing up the first half of the movie, there was a certain part of me that was like, vengeance, get some vengeance. But then you get into the second half of the movie and you see everything that he's doing to Vicente, and there's the table shifts dramatically. The true monster of this film is not some would-be attacker on an innocent girl in a garden. It's Robert. It's this doctor.
I didn't have such a hard stance on Vicente. I was never like, yeah, this is what you get. Because I just saw it as like two young people that were just making
stupid mistakes.
It was just, a bad combo all around, drugs and not really knowing each other and each other's histories. But I did also want to ask you, before we find out who Vera really is, she seems to be, I don't know if seduce is too strong a word, but she seems to be trying to come on to, what is his name? The doctor, Ledgard?
Ledgard, yeah,
Something
Robert
weird.
Ledgard.
Coming on to Antonio Banderas' character, Dr. Ledgard, did you feel, based on what we learned later and what actually the ultimate comeuppance that he served on Ledgard, do you feel like, was it Vicente trying, because this is what I wasn't clear on, was the seduction just a means to let Ledgard let his guard down enough so that he could finally have some access to freedom and then make his escape? Or was it Stockholm syndrome and it was genuine until he saw the picture of himself as Vicente in the paper?
I don't know.
Because we do learn that he's been imprisoned there for like, from 2006 he was kidnapped, and the date that all the present day stuff in the movie is happening is 2011. So it's like a good 5 years?
Yeah.
That he's been imprisoned there in that house.
I genuinely don't know, because I couldn't tell. Once it all starts going down in the second half, I genuinely couldn't tell if it had been Vera Vicente's plan all along to kind of lure Ledgard into believing, I'm in love with you, I'm with you, this is forever, we're promising each other forever, just to get freedom and access to guns in the outside, or if Vera Vicente genuinely wanted all of that and then saw his photo in the paper and was reminded of like who he was and whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's not made clear, so it's not clear.
Because in that dream sequence, the dream sequence that happens halfway through the film, where we get all this information, where we get the backstory and the flashback 6 years, I got the impression that's what Ledgard was dreaming, and that's what Vera was dreaming. Did you get that too? Which, by the way, I made note of this in my phone. I do remember this. So that night, that was the night that Zeka breaks into the house, ties up his mother. He's just like a freaking monster.
Just disgusting.
He's just a disgusting monster. Ties up his mother, goes, drags Vera out of her room, starts trying to assault her on the video where his mother can watch. And then that night, after Ledgard goes and disposes of the body, he tries to come back and take Vera to bed. I'm like, she was just a victim of assault. And like, what are you doing?
Well, and then there's the whole point. I
wrote down in my notes, was like, excuse me?
Well, and then there's just the whole point that he did this whole thing as revenge for the person that he believes raped his daughter. So now he's wanting to have sex with the person he thinks raped his daughter. It's like, what is going on in this movie?
Well, we didn't know that at the time, though. To be fair, we didn't know that that's who he was trying to have. So we're just like, what? But my thing was like, dude, she was just assaulted, and here you are trying to take her to like,
it's just
what? And that's part of like what made this movie so like, when I talk about the objectification of women,
repulsive,
and the fact that it's just like, here is this woman, Vera, who's just a body for anyone's pleasure, like whoever.
Well, and didn't Dr. Ledgard say something like in the scene where he's bringing the dildos in basically right after the vaginoplasty, and he's telling him increase the size because you have to increase the and he says something disgusting to the effect of like the orifice is your key to life or will save your life or something, basically reducing Vera down
her down to that
orifice. Like that's your purpose in life.
Right.
It's just gross. It's just gross. Repulsive.
I object. No, it does though. Like it just felt like an entire statement on womanhood and perceptions of womanhood. In this case, Ledgar's perception of what a woman should be, and I'm going to model it to look like, in this case, my wife. It just all kinds of messed up. What did you think of what did you think of the moment where Vicente takes his revenge, so to speak?
If you want to I thought she was taking too long and the housekeeper was going to come and shoot her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. We're not even getting into all the side story of the fact that Zeka and Robert were both sons of the housekeeper.
She's essentially Robert's mother. And does he even know that? Does he know that she's his mother?
Because I was wondering the whole movie, I was like, what is it with these households? I don't want to say servants because that sounds bad, but these household employees, housekeepers, blah, 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 who just are following these Dr. Frankenstein dudes. It's like, and then of course we find out she's his mother, which still, but that at least partially explains why.
Partially explains it a little bit better.
Covering for him, keeping a woman trapped in a bedroom for 5 years.
It's like and see, that's the other thing. It's like in the film, does she, the housekeeper woman, what is her name in the film?
Maria or something. It's not
Maria.
Maria.
Yeah, it's not Maria. I get that. I don't know that she knows who Vera truly is. I think she doesn't trust Vera.
Yeah.
But I think
she thinks she is actually like a biological woman.
Right. So like, I don't think she knows the full extent of what Ledgard has done. That ending sequence where, so essentially there's some other scientist dude, and I never really got what the backstory of all that was. The other scientist who's showing up to Ledgard and trying to get Ledgard to like give them access to his his on-site operating space.
They were running like a clinic probably for like wealthy people who, for various things. I don't think it was necessarily anything, well, it could have been illegal, I don't know, but just they were running some kind of clinic and doing surgeries, operations of whatever.
Right.
Never really explicit
maybe
of surgeries, but
right, maybe stuff that wasn't necessarily upheld by the scientific community or whatever. That guy leaves Antonio Banderas essentially tells him, I'm not interested in doing any of that stuff, because Antonio Banderas at this point in the film, he believes that he and Vera are going to build this life together. They've come out of the other side of the attack from Zeka. He feels that, like, okay, we're committed to each other. We're going to make this work. We can live as man and wife. And so he's going to give up his secret testing and operations and things of that nature. And so he wants to just be done. He wants to be out of it. And this other doctor is like, that's when he presents the paper where Vicenta's missing picture is still on the front cover. And he's like, this person's missing. And I don't know what happened to this person, kind of making threats. And at that point, Vera shows up and sort of, I think the doctor was insinuating that what was true, that how do I know you haven't been experimenting on Vicente here in this laboratory? And Vera shows up and she says, as you can see, I've always been a woman and, we're very happy and blah, 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 sends the doctor on his way. So that night they're in bed, finally going to be together. She has to go downstairs to get her purse and cream and stuff like that. And she puts a weapon in her purse, goes upstairs, shoots Robert dead, and then shoots Marilia. Yeah, at that point you were just thinking, justice.
Yeah, it's like good riddance. She should have cut off his, what.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that was
shot him.
That's what I was kind of wondering if that was going to happen.
Or shoot him in the what.
I was kind of wondering if that was going to be like the ultimate circle closed of like, you took mine, I'm going to take yours.
And then, of course, he, goes back to his mother's dress shop, and 5 years later, been missing. His mother has never had any idea what happened to him, and he introduces himself as Vicente.
Which I thought was interesting because I kind of fully saw the scene ending as like, there's a version of this movie where I could see Vicente going into the store, seeing his mother, and having that moment of closure for himself, but also maybe cognizant of the fact that he might not be able to put her through the revelation of all of this. And so then just choosing to leave and embark on a life on his own. He does tell the shop assistant who he is and explains the situation. And then where the movie ends is just him telling,
Vicente.
Yeah, I'm Vicente. What did you like? What was your take on that ending?
I just thought it was sad. I don't know where he goes with his life from here, what his future holds for him or how he's going to choose to go forward.
Like I did read something about like this movie being based on the book Tarantula. That book, which was
Weird name
published,
for a book. I wonder why they chose that.
I don't know,
Tarantula.
but it was published in 1984, which that was just as notions of transgender identity and sex reassignment surgery were starting to be discussed by mainstream culture. So kind of a book of its time, I suppose. Other than the body horror aspect of it. And honestly, from a body horror standpoint, Veronica, do you feel like there were truly horrific moments in this movie?
Well, yeah, that's the
but
whole.
like, yeah. From
I
like
can't imagine a bigger horror than someone changing your gender without your.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was referring more to like actual scene elements of like graphic horror depicted in the. Yeah, it was more just like disturbing themes. Just really disturbing themes and content from that standpoint. It's not like there's like bloodiness or goriness to it. It's a movie I'm glad I watched. I think it's one we can cross off our list, but I don't know.
It's never on my list.
Well, it was only on my list because it's on everybody else's list. Like it's on all the lists for like Spanish horror. But did Pedro Almodóvar, has he done other horror movies besides this? I think this was sort of heralded as his first foray into horror, but has he done others?
Not that I know of. But outside of that very early Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, maybe that is the only other one I've seen. And that was kind of trippy. So the minute I saw that because at first I didn't even know this was his film.
Uh-huh.
And then the minute I saw his name, I was like, oh, I was already had an idea that it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be this bizarre, but
he did a movie in 2024 called The Room Next Door, and this is his first English-speaking film, so it has Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore in it, and I have never seen anything about it. I'm looking at the poster right now, but I've never seen a damn thing about this movie, so I don't know that this is one that I would necessarily watch again, just because it was. I don't know. Maybe I could, because like everything I just said, it's not particularly graphic. It's not particularly bloody. And those are two things that sometimes make me pause on watching a movie a second time if it's like really graphic. But it is just disturbing. Like you said, it's very disturbing. It's very sad.
If I had thought for a minute what you had thought, that Vera was actually Norma, his daughter, I would have switched it off.
And that's why I was worried. I was like,
this.
That's why I was worried, because when you were like, I stopped at an hour in, I was like, oh God, she doesn't want to watch it anymore because of where it stopped. And then like when you get into the second hour, I'm like, oh, it's different, Ron. In a different way, it's worse.
No, if I had thought that was his daughter, no, I would have said, nope, I'm out.
That's where I really thought it was going. And I was like, oh my God, is this where this is going? Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? In terms of jump scares, there were no jump scares.
No.
It's like, how would you describe it? Sort of just like atmospherically creepy.
Yeah, it's more of a psychological.
There's really grand music in it, sweeping music. So
I didn't even notice the music, to be honest.
I would say it's atmospherically creepy.
The housekeeper lady, Marilia, whatever her name is, she looked familiar. Had we seen her in something?
I feel like she looked familiar to me too, but I didn't spend too much time paying attention to her face. Let me see. She was in The Devil's Backbone, Ron. She was probably the school lady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She would have had to have been. That was the only.
She was Carmen. She was Carmen, the school
lady. I knew she looked familiar.
Yeah. Didn't she? Is she still alive? Yeah, she's 78. She's still. Nope, I'm sorry. She died.
Oh.
She passed away.
I'm sorry. She died.
She passed away in 2024 at 78. She was 78. She's a wonderful actress. I'm looking at a photo of her when she was younger. She's beautiful.
What's her name?
Marisa Paredes. Good catch on her looking familiar, because I kind of felt like she looked a little familiar to me too, but I didn't spend too much time thinking about it. But yeah, she's in that movie. She's the school mistress, whatever, head of the school. Anyway, the Skin I Live In. There is a really excellent review for you guys that I wanted. It's over on deepfocusreview.com. It's written by Brian Eggert. And I only mention that because it's a name that I've come to recognize in a lot of the film reviews and analysis that we've pulled for other episodes. So I just wanted to share. Well, no, I'm sorry. I was going to share something he wrote from the film, and then I didn't get to finish. I was like scrambling to get stuff done before we started recording for this episode. So let me just see if I can pull it off my computer real quick. Well, Veronica, if there are any additional thoughts while I'm scrambling to find a quote about this movie, anything you want to share?
It's not my favorite. It's not
Not your favorite.
It's not gonna ever be on a list of my favorite anything. Nope.
Let's see.
Nope.
You're just like, it's a no for me, dog.
That's my final comment. Nope.
Okay.
What are you looking for?
This might be relevant. So this is the review from deepfocusreview.com by Brian Eggert. There's a couple of, the whole thing is worth reading. Definitely go and make time to read this movie. He talks about like his analysis where he says the skin I live in kind of retells the Greek myth of Veronica. How do you
Sisyphus? No.
Tiresias? Tiresias?
Tiresias? I don't know. I've never heard that Greek myth
So
before.
this is what he says. The skin I live in, according to Eggert, also retells the Greek myth of, I'm going to say Tiresias, who experienced life as a woman after Hera, queen of the gods, punished him for interrupting a pair of copulating snakes. When Tiresias returned to the same snake mating spot 7 years later, Hera, if I'm saying that correctly, reversed her spell and restored Tiresias to manhood. Then, as the story goes, Hera and Zeus, caught in a marital spat, argued about which gender experienced more pleasure during sex. Ever jealous and tempestuous Hera argued that men enjoyed it more than women. Zeus believed the opposite, and so they went to Tiresias to answer the question. He said that he enjoyed the act more as a woman. Hera, upset over losing the argument, then blinded Tiresias, and eventually Zeus felt remorse for this and gave Tiresias the abilities of being a prophesier as consolation. I don't know. He was making drawing a comparison between the two stories. He does say this: since its release, The Skin I Live In has prompted think pieces aplenty and heated reactions about what the film conveys about gender and power and how those elements fit into the horror genre. There are critics that have compared the film to Hitchcock's Psycho, Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill, and the 1980s slasher movie Sleepaway Camp, all of which use uncertain gender or transgender people as a source of scares. These films and many others like them are kind of problematic in the way that they treat transgender identity as some kind of affront to nature, depicting them as a form of monstrosity. But I think, as you and I talked about already, what the monstrosity here is Ludgard, and the fact that he's done all of this against Vicente's will. That's what's horrific about it.
Yeah.
That's what makes it hard to watch. Give this one a watch if you haven't and are really interested in watching Almodóvar's The Skin I Live In. It is disturbing. If you don't want to watch it after listening to Ronnie and I talk about it, that's understandable, and you don't have to, because we've told you a sufficient amount of it that you get the idea. I have a monthly recommendation that I can recommend to people. I just heard about it. It's on HBO for folks, HBO Max, whatever it's calling itself. It's a new documentary that centers around a Texas case. And the only reason that I clicked on it to watch it is because the first time I heard about the story was through Texas Monthly, which is a magazine here in Texas, written by Skip Hollandsworth, I think is his name. He's one of my favorite true crime writers here in Texas. He wrote The Midnight Assassin, but he also wrote an investigative story on this particular killer, and it has now been turned into an HBO documentary, and I'm trying to figure out what the name of it is. Hang on. It's called The Serial Killer's Apprentice. Okay, well, evidently there's two. There's one that came out in 2016, and then there's this new one that came out in 2025. So if you're doing searches and you come up on a 2016 one, that's not it. This one is called The Serial Killer's Apprentice, 2025. It's new on HBO Max right now. It's about 1.5 hour documentary where Dr. Ramsland shares an exclusive interview with Elmer Wayne Henley, studying his journey from groomed teen to killer in the 1973 Houston mass murders. I think there was something like 29 kids that were abducted and murdered during the course of the early mid 70s here in Houston, Texas. This documentary, which I'm only about halfway through, is told from the vantage point of this young teen who the actual perpetrator of these crimes kind of groomed into being this kid would act as like the lure for these children.
Nope.
I was going to say, for those of us who sort of sickly gravitate to this stuff, it might be worth putting on your radar. And if you're not into that, then don't do it. Only Murders in the Building is starting up September 9th, and that's going to be fun. So,
I mean, if it was luring adults, that'd be one thing, but I don't like watching when people do bad things to kids.
yeah. So far, so like I'm about an hour in. It hasn't been terribly graphic on anything, so I've been able to, if it were to go that way, I might have to bow out. So I've been able to watch it so far. But yeah, that's it. Other than that, guys, Ronnie and I are still working through Untamed.
Which I did see an announcement that it is getting a second season.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And also, I also saw that was just recently announced that other show on, I believe it's on Netflix, that I was telling you about, Department Q.
Yes.
Also getting a second season, which I'm very happy about. You
Okay,
really need to watch that one.
You said it's on Netflix?
I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember if you told me. Is it a comedy?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it has funny bits, but no, it's
the way you said that sets it up for it's going to be drama. Am I going to see drama?
No, it's just like a detective in Scotland who him and his partner get injured on the job, and the first episode is he's coming back after recovering and having time off, and he gets assigned to basically this cold case. Or he's going to start, like they're just starting this cold case unit. And so he kind of forms this little ragtag group of misfits, and he's very prickly. So he's he's very prickly, but cares.
Is he like House? You likened him to House, the Dr. House?
Yeah, but whereas how, not to that extent. Well, no, maybe so. But he's just very prickly, but he does care. And there's lots of like twists and turns. If I ever have time, I might.
I know. Yeah. If I can ever get around to it, I will definitely look into that one. And any true crime stuff, any true detective-esque stuff, I'm all about it. The other thing we want to make sure you guys know about, just reminding you, we did select a book last episode. We've announced it on social media. Our next book club read for Don't Watch at Night, we're reading Suburban Dicks, which is a novel by Fabian Nicieza. We do have information about it if you go to our website, don'twatchatnight.com, go to our book club page. We have all kinds of information about it. If you join our Patreon, which we're going to link for you guys in our show notes, you can join the discussion happening on this book. And our discussion episode for it will be coming in October of 2025. So it'll be coming end of October this year. Get to reading it and join Patreon and be part of that conversation. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Don't Watch at Night is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Don't Watch at Night every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.